Hi, welcome back to another edition of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. It's Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. Hope you're having a good day. So, who's the real whore, if I can say that word, in the Senate? When I come back, we'll discuss that.
So, we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station. I know you've been doing a lot of that lately. And please subscribe if you have. And if you have subscribed, check and make sure you still are subscribed because YouTube will unsubscribe you. Yeah, it's just like they suppressed my story last night from the Freedom Convoy trial because it discussed Tamara Leach. She's on a social media blacklist. She's shadow banned. So you talk about Tamara Leach. Yes, I know, and Chris Barber as well. He doesn't seem to have the same resonance with social media in terms of blacklisting. They're in this together, and I report on them equally. But put Tamara Leach in a story and watch YouTube suppress it. That story was going through the roof when we put it out last night. Within a couple of hours, yeah, big decline. YouTube was not sharing it with people. So I encourage you, go and give YouTube hell for what they do by sharing everything you like with your friends and your family. And sure, YouTube doesn't get their way to tell you what news you should be seeing. This is what this is all about. There's certain stories, yeah, they just promote the hell out of because they're meaningless. They don't have any substance to them. And I mean, constant ad hominem insults against Justin Trudeau. Yeah, I know it's popular. I know it's great. But ultimately, he ends up looking better because he is a person without any leadership capability. He should not be prime minister. But the more people just attack him personally and not his policies, the better he keeps looking. And it's amazing to me. So we got a lot to talk about today. Lousy day here in Ottawa. Another rainy day in August. We only have 10 more days of of this month. Summer is supposed to end, of course, in a month from now, but September is a little uneven here. So I hope you're having a good day. And I really wanted to jump right into a couple of stories here, which, of course, the chief one is Charles Adler being appointed to the Senate. And this story fascinates me because about 20 years ago, I was working on a project to do a show with Charles Adler with my wife. We were going to it was going to be the three of us with the three of us together. And as a radio producer in Calgary was discussing this idea with me at the time, and I said that sounds ridiculous. It's going to be, it's going to end up being three people vying for attention, and all of them thinking that what they're saying is the most important. So I said that sounds like a catastrophe to me. So we never did it. I don't even know if Charles Adler was even approached about it, but this goes back to a time in my life after I had left the Hill to I took a year off to fight the same-sex marriage legislation that was coming at the time, and I was really looking for something to do. And so anyway, the Charles Adler project came up. So I sort of watched Charles over the years, and he just gradually drifted farther and farther to the left. He was a real vitriolic conservative talk show host for most of his career. The last decade at least, maybe 15 years, he's drifted to the left. And of course, he has become a cheerleader for Justin Trudeau. Let's face it, that's exactly what Charles Adler has become. And of course, in the old days, he used to always go on about how evil the Senate was. And he actually said they're a bunch of whores and they just go there because they're well paid for it. So what is he saying now? He has been appointed to the Senate by Justin Trudeau. And just think about this for a second. Do you think Justin Trudeau would appoint a true small c conservative talk show host to the Senate? No, not for a minute. And Charles Adler is still calling himself a conservative talk show host. Nonsense. He hasn't been for years. But how does he feel about going to the Senate of Horrors, as he once called it? So this is a great little clip. And I think you might enjoy this.
Take a listen to this. The Canadian Senate is a sewer that needs to be terminated. The Senate is a watchdog. A watchdog guards you. The Senate isn't guarding you any more than the wolf is guarding the sheep. Hashtag political predator. The CPC should propose Senate abolition in first term of a new government. Let the post-Senate era begin. Those comments come from one of Canada's newest senators. I take your point that you're saying you are reflecting the concerns of the people that you speak with, but bold, let me give this example. And I will say, this is back from 2013, but you explicitly say cleaning out the Senate barn is not complicated, and you suggest that if you paid them less money and gave them no pension, quote, the whores won't take the job. Now, you're going to have to work alongside people that you, yes, it may have been in the context of your profession, but that you've referred to as a group of whores, Charles Adler. So how do you expect that that's going to go?
Well, I'll just do the Canadian thing. I'll just ask them for forbearance, ask them for forgiveness, tell them I'll redeem myself. You know, whatever it takes. If you're expecting me to say I see my colleagues as whores, I mean, you know, we can just put this down. No, I don't, and that's the quote. Charles Adler does not see his Senate colleagues as whores.
Okay, so what did you mean in 2013 when you said, so you're admitting you're not a small c conservative anymore? Prior to saying this in this interview, he goes on about he's there in the Senate to reform it. He still believes in a triple E Senate, elected, effective, and equal. Do you believe that for a minute? No, I don't. But that's what he's justifying taking this patronage job from Justin Trudeau by saying he's just there to reform the Senate. Don't worry. That's all this is about. And listen how he goes on.
You heard it here first, folks. Listen, Mr. Adler, it is not just potentially some ruffled feathers in the Senate. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's office reacted to your appointment by describing you as one of Justin Trudeau's biggest cheerleaders and most vicious anti-conservative attack dogs in the media. He says, his office says, that this is evidence that the Senate is still liberal. It's not independent like the Prime Minister pledged to make it. Do you have any concerns that you were chosen to sort of tick off the Conservatives to get under Mr. Poilievre's skin?
No, my guess is I'll get under Poilievre's skin. My guess is I'll get under Trudeau's skin. My guess is I'll get under Singh's skin, and I'll certainly get underneath some skin of people who think that there's something going on inside my mind where I'm suspicious that they're whores. I mean, all kinds of people will put targets on my back and take shots at me for choosing words that they wouldn't have used. I've spoken millions of words over the years. And as far as the attack dog business, I mean, that's what the Liberals think of me as. Many Liberals in this country think of me as a conservative attack dog because that's what I've done most of my life.
Well, let me jump in there because you may know that Minister Dan Van Dal, in fact, said that Justin Trudeau could have picked a better person to represent Manitoba. And I wonder what you thought when you heard that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Catherine, because doesn't that make my point gloriously? Doesn't that make my point vividly? Dan Van Dal, lifelong Liberal, is not happy that conservative commentator and writer Charles Adler is going into the Senate. He thinks that they could have made a much better choice, and I'm positive, even though I don't want to pretend that I can read the mind of the cabinet minister, I'm positive that Mr. Van Dal means that a better choice would have been a Liberal choice.
So still playing this game, are you, Adler, that you're really a conservative? You would never be in the Senate if you were a conservative. And have you seen the Senate lately? I sat in recently. I hadn't been in the Senate in years. Because, I mean, unless you're really desperately in need of a cure for insomnia, there's not really a great reason to go to the Senate and listen to it. But it has devolved into this weird group of focus. All I can say is I call them focus groups. They're not even parties. Like you've got a little enclave of the old conservatives that's getting shrinking in numbers over the years. And you've got these other groups that are supposedly independent because when Justin Trudeau said, "Hey, we're going to let loose the Senate from members of Parliament, Senate can vote as they please. They're now independent." A lot of people said, "Whoa, Trudeau's working for an independent Senate. It's not going to be any more captive to the government that appoints it." So they've devolved into these three different focus groups. I'm not even going to mention their names, but they're all woke and they're all liberal and they're all fighting for Justin Trudeau. So they just changed the label, but it's the same ingredients. It's the same ingredients. They changed the label, the branding, and that's all they did. They no longer call themselves members of the Liberal Party of Canada. You know, they're the progressive group and whatnot. So, I wonder which group Charles Adler is going to join. Which focus group is he going to join? Because he's finally found a home. This guy who can never decide what his politics are, who's completely gone left in the last decade or so. I'm interested to see where he ends up. And that's all I want to say about Charles Adler. I thought I should address this. By the way, please, I'm going to say it again because YouTube, I can see the numbers right now. They're screwing me again. They're not letting anybody see this. Share this broadcast with your friends. Yep, their numbers are going down again. Share this broadcast with your friends and family, please. Let's beat them right now because they are still trying to suppress last night's story. And this gets frustrating, I tell you, dealing with this cartel, social media cartel. It really is. Okay, let's move on to a national defense story. You know, I was in the military for over 12 years, public affairs officer. Yeah, one of the flaks. Wrote the propaganda talking points, including the propaganda talking points for NATO, which I've mentioned. I really regret now giving life to an organization that really should have disbanded after the end of the Cold War. But enough said. This is interesting. The controversial new Canadian Army logo was approved at the highest levels, documents show. It's my old friend David Puglisi, excellent defense reporter for the Ottawa Citizen. He's been doing this for, my God, must be over 25 years now. Because when I was working on the Hill with Art Hanger as defense critic, we often liaised with Puglisi, and that was 25 years ago now. So he's been doing this a long time, and he's a good reporter, and he does dig up great information. So the Canadian Army pretended when there was pushback, and just to have a look at this logo. What the hell is that? A lot of people say it looks like a moose and a bear doing unspeakable things. I can't say, obviously, if I say what people are equating this to, I could be knocked off the air. But that's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. So this was purported to be, it was just an idea. We just sort of put that out there to see what people thought. That's not going to be the new logo of the Canadian Army. But read the story and you discover this thing was approved at the highest levels. They were serious about this logo. They were entirely serious about this logo. They wanted this to be the new logo of the Canadian Army. Now you say, how in the hell? Yeah. Well, remember who was in charge here? Yeah, we had General Wayne Eyre. This is the guy who was Mr. DEI in the military. This is the guy who allowed dress and deportment standards to plummet to this level. I hate picking on this guy, whoever he is in the photo. This is a Navy sailor. Before, I don't know if the new regulations have kicked in, but they finally agreed they had to make it a little more stringent. The policy had to be elevated just a little bit because maybe that didn't look like a Canadian sailor. Sure as hell doesn't to me. That's not the way sailors, airmen, or soldiers looked when I was in the military. And holy crap, If you think you're in the military and you can dress like that and you can keep your hair like that, find another job. Find something else to do. But of course, we have an even more woke chief of defense staff now with Jenny Kerrigan joining the group. She's now the chief of defense staff. She's not the top soldier. The media never gets this. The top soldier is the chief of staff of the Canadian Army, or the head of the Canadian Army is the top soldier. The head of the Canadian Armed Forces is not a soldier anymore because he or she has to represent all of the Canadian Armed Forces, including the Navy and the Air Force. So the idiots in the media never get this. When I was a public affairs officer, I used to always have to tell them, don't call the chief of defense staff the top soldier because he's not the top soldier. But they always get this wrong. So yes, I can believe the Canadian Army wanted that. With people like this running the Canadian Armed Forces, I can certainly believe that's what happened. And it's really, really disgusting. But I have said so much, about how the Canadian Armed Forces has deteriorated. We've given all our weapons away to Ukraine. We have nothing left. We can't replace them. And I've been through this. But the real rot in the Canadian Armed Forces is the social experimentation that's been going on for decades. Quotas for recruitment, saying we need X number of females in the combat arms. I don't care if you have 60% females in the combat arms, as long as they meet the standards and as long as they're there willingly, as long as they want to be there and they're prepared to do the job and they can do the job. Great. But don't artificially say 40% of the combat arms should be women and we'll get them there hell or high water and we'll ride roughshod over standards in the process. Boy, am I ever being suppressed today. I can't get over this. The numbers are just stalled. It is. I am so sick of YouTube doing this. I am so sick of dealing with this constant suppression, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep fighting back against these people who want you to see the news they want you to see. And they don't want serious news. But that's what the Canadian Armed Forces is today. It's a land of quotas. It's a land of DEI. It's a land of equity hires. It's a land that has completely been hollowed out by woke ideology. That's what's happened to Canadian Armed Forces. And that's why that logo is seriously being considered. I want to move on to another story here. I know a lot of you don't really care about American politics if you're in Canada, but you need to be. Because as America goes, so goes Canada. And if Donald Trump loses this election in the fall, God help not just America, but North America. Kamala Harris is an airhead. She's not qualified to be the dog catcher. But suddenly she's become the messiah for the mainstream media in the United States and in Canada. Read the Canadian news stories about the Democratic National Convention and how wonderful it was that Obama and Michelle Obama were there last night and they electrified the audience with their speech. So inspiring. And Kamala Harris is the woman of the hour. And of course, it's all nonsense. Anyway, let us go to this announcement because what is the answer? I say this with all seriousness. The only answer right now is we need to get Robert F. Kennedy as the third party candidate supporting Donald Trump. And out of the blue yesterday, completely unexpected, Kennedy's running mate, Nicole Shanahan, says, hey, that might be a good idea because we're getting nowhere with the Democrats constantly sabotaging our campaign. And that's precisely what they're doing. Let's listen to this.
Trump is talking about something on CNN specifically related to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'd like to ask both of you to stand by for a second. We just cut the clip. We just turned it around. I want to play it here.
Have you considered him for a role in the administration, and what role would that be?
Well, we haven't, but I would love that endorsement because I've always liked him.
Would you also consider putting him in the administration?
You're asking me a very unusual question. I haven't been asked that question yet. I like him a lot. I respect him a lot. I probably would if something like that would happen.
Explain, Alex Seitzwald, who's joining us now here on set, why this is even coming up as a possibility. RFK Jr.'s running mate basically floated this today and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if the goods are good enough, right, if there's a deal that's good enough, RFK Jr. might consider dropping out and backing Mr. Trump.
Yeah, these are some truly remarkable comments from Nicole Shanahan on this podcast, where she basically acknowledged that they have no real path to victory at this point. She spoke in past tense about the campaign, said they do not want to help Kamala Harris get elected in any way, and they would work with Donald Trump.
And NBC Alex goes on to say how much this just confirms what the Democrats feared the most, that Robert F. Kennedy's not really serious about being a third-party candidate. He's there for Trump all the time. He's just there to split the vote. Even as the Democrats have sabotaged Kennedy's campaign constantly. Democratic judges have done everything possible to keep his name off the ballot in so many states. This is an outrage. I like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because this is a lifelong liberal who went through COVID and said, hey, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong with the government, and we need to change it. There's something completely sinister and immoral about the billions of dollars that Big Pharma is making off this so-called safe and effective vaccine. Yep, I said it. There's something very sinister about what is going on with the government controlling how you behave, where you go, whether you have to have a mask on, social distancing. He came out and really stood against that at a time when few people had the guts and courage to do that. He's continued to do that, and of course, the Democrats have ridiculed him. His own family has ridiculed him. His own family has disowned him in many cases, but he's kept on. So, of course, he's come to the point of saying, you know, I have tried to run an honest campaign. I have tried to be a third-party candidate alternative, but the Democrats won't let me. Just like they appointed illegally, they have appointed Kamala Harris as the Democratic standard bearer. Nobody voted for her. They pushed Biden out because he's an old, demented idiot. They finally realized it. They finally realized, the public realized it after that debate, right? They finally realized that the jig was up. They couldn't get away with this charade anymore. So Biden gets pushed out by Nancy Pelosi, and she admits it. Yeah, we had a coup. Yeah, we threw the old boy out. Kamala Harris walks in, takes over all of the donations that Joe Biden raised. And you know I'm no fan of Joe Biden. But Joe Biden raised that money as the standard bearer, as the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris walks in and just takes it over, is appointed by the party insiders, by the big bosses, by the donors. That's who appointed Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential candidate. The people did not decide that. Democratic voters did not decide that. They just made it. They made it happen. And that's how democratic the Democratic Party is. And to boot, they don't want Robert F. Kennedy in the race. They don't even want him on the ballot. Let's listen to what Robert F. Kennedy's running mate had to say. And she just dropped this bombshell yesterday.
The DNC made that impossible for us. They have banned us, shadow banned us, kept us off stages, manipulated polls, used lawfare against us, sued us in every possible state. They've even planted insiders into our campaign to disrupt it and to create actual legal issues for us. I mean, the extent by which the sabotage they've unleashed upon us, it's mind-blowing. I mean, we're still learning new ways that they have sabotaged us. I really wanted a fair shot at this election, and I believed in the America that a little girl pledged an allegiance to.
Yeah, the party that she pledged allegiance to, and the country she pledged allegiance is gone. It's evanescent. It's vanished. And this is why I think RFK needs to join forces with Donald Trump to keep the Democrats out. Because I don't know if Donald Trump is serious about beating or fighting the deep state, fighting globalism. Some days he seems to be, other days he wavers, but he's a hell of a lot more inclined to do so than Kamala Harris or any of these Democratic deadbeats. And I think if he has RFK on his team and in his cabinet post election, we have a better chance of getting some honest government in the States. And I hope that reflects well upon Canada because, my God, we need some honest government in this country. And where Trudeau is going with his censorship policies. And I can't say enough about that. I'm just going to have a look at some of your comments this morning before we leave. And I might be back on tonight because this episode has been so suppressed by YouTube that it's killing me. That's what they do. They don't want small c conservative journalists to succeed. BEI soldiers with tattoos and rainbow hair and high heels. Yikes. Robin Kleinstuber writes this morning. And Megan RP, this is interesting. Since the DNC started, YouTube is showing me unusual options and none of my subscriptions. Strange. And YouTube is just canning my broadcasts since the DNC started. And everything I've been putting out there has been completely stomped on. Numbers are going down as I speak. It's just incredible. Like, you don't want to hear your comments. I mean, YouTube is just so mendacious. Cindy Jackson Servitius. They say they will put Trump in jail next month, then watch the fireworks. You bet there's going to be fireworks. One more quarter. When the government wants your children for war, give them your. What's a second? Give them your children. I'm not sure what. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm still not sure what she means by that. The A team, Trump, Musk, RFK Jr., David W. Carlson. Very good point, David. That is a triumvirate for victory. And I think for the eradication or at least the lessening of corruption in American politics. Everything being called, this is Etienne de la Croix, everything being called conservative and right wing right now is fake. It's 1990s liberalism. Maybe so. Spank that button and subscribe. Yes, Glenn, thank you. We're certainly not seeing that happen this morning. But anyway, it's a pleasure just to be able to discuss these things. I think this person is really not thinking straight here. Yeah, I'm going to show that David W. Carlson again, talking about a Democratic Maryland representative Jamie Raskin, who oversaw the last Trump impeachment. Actually, he's on video saying that if Trump wins the next election, they're going to disqualify him at the congressional level. That the House of Representatives will say, you're disqualified, even though the Supreme Court said this ridiculous reading of the 14th Amendment did not apply to Donald Trump because he did not stage an insurrection. It had nothing to do with an insurrection. January 6th was not an insurrection. So he's not disqualified from running. But Jamie Raskin, this idiot, this imbecile, this moron of a congressman says, well, we're going to disqualify him anyway. And we need security because there's going to be protests from Donald Trump's forces, Donald Trump's people. And we might have a civil war over this. This guy is insane. I'll show you that clip later in the week, actually. Hi from Castor, Alberta. Hello. Rural Saskatchewan here. I think we got some more. I heard about this morning. I want to look into this. Linda Smith. Alex Jones has a decree from Russia's Putin, which invites citizens who want to leave the Western globalist-run countries tomorrow to Russia. No, to move to Russia. Okay. I'm still here supporting you, David, and thank you. Bravo. Thank you, Sandy. Yes, we're going to beat YouTube suppression because they think they can get away with this. But we're going to beat them. Okay, I'm not going to read any more of yours. They're really weird today. The Dems do not respect the Supreme Court. No, they sure as hell don't. Well, anyways, I wanted to read some comments today because I want to incorporate that into the broadcast from now on. I want to thank you for watching today. And these numbers are a little disappointing this morning, but hey, what else is new? We do what we can. I've got to get to work on the post-millennial, where I'm spending a lot of my time right now. I read my latest in human events when it comes up. It should be up by tomorrow. I'm going to put that up in the description when I can. Thank you for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel, and thank you for watching this program, because we do stand on guard for you here. And we do give you all the news that you need to know. So I want to thank you again, and I'll be back again, maybe even tonight, depending upon what happens today. But I will have Kyle Kemper on the show. We're looking at Friday. So in the next couple of days, we'll have Kyle Kemper on the show to discuss the latest pandemic, monkeypox and bird influenza, as well as the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. campaign, where Kyle is working right now. You saw the last interview we did. It was one of the biggest episodes I ever had. Even YouTube couldn't suppress that. And it was fascinating talking to Kyle. He's an outstanding individual. And of course, yes, the half brother of Justin Trudeau. And he doesn't mince words about Trudeau's failures as a politician, as a leader. He's not cruel. He's not mean, but he doesn't mince his words either. And I found the conversation fascinating. So we'll be back again tomorrow. God bless you for watching this show. Share it with your friends and family. Let's beat YouTube's suppression and let's beat Trudeau's censorship. Thank you again.